To continue where I left off, I was talking in the previous video that I am transitioning into off-season or limbo period, where I'm going to test a different approach, focusing solely on maximum muscle hypertrophy. However, before I do that, I need results from my blood test to see if my health, and let's not forget I'm 51 years old, is okay. If the test will show bad blood markers, then I'm going to retire. And this will be my last training video, because health is first, then comes everything else. Anyway, fingers crossed. Let's start, shall we? And I'm starting today's training with a traditional warm-up. Don't skip this part, especially when you are older lifter. Analogy would be don't rev up the engine if it's still cold, if you want engine to last longer. Okay? First exercise for the back is a low row on the plated machine exigo. This is a good choice for building overall back thickness. As you know, rowing movements develop thickness of the back and pulling targets width of the back. As Arnold explains, Steve Reeves had a great width of the back, but no thickness, as he was deliberately cultivating a V-taper physique, prioritizing shoulder width and narrow waist over, not back thickness or mass, which he believed created a blocky appearance. However, Arnold continues, I was quite into rowing, which gave me desirable thickness, or thickness I wanted to have. So to develop overall back, you should include both movements in your training, pulling and rowing. Low row machines support my chest, allowing me to isolate my back muscles, effectively taking my lower back out of the movement, and this is important. I used to do barbell rows, however, I would always end up with pain in my lower back. Whatever I did, however I did it, with belt, without belt, even with using belt, and no matter how I did barbell rows, the pain always hit me. So I quit lifting weights in year 2000 and started to train again in 2021. So I was off training for 21 years, so no gym for 21 years. Then I realized back in 2021, when I got back into lifting weights, why am I so stubborn? What worked for my idols like Dorian or Arnold is not working for me. So I started to use exercises that worked for me. So no more barbell rows, deadlifts or squats with bar or heavy shoulder presses. But it was just for me, okay? As I'm 51 years old and have experience, risk to reward ratio is high. And I don't want to pick up any injury. I have to mention that I have scoliosis, but my back muscles are holding my spine where it should be just well. So I have no pains. Scoliosis is a condition where the spine twists and curves sideways, often forming a C or S shape on X-ray, okay? So if you have difficulty to feel the lats whilst doing rows, try to imagine that you are pulling the weight with your elbows. Also, wrist straps can be useful, as the grip will go later in the set. I'm also squeezing my shoulder blades together at the top movement to target the back more effectively and keeping my chest on the front part. The medium grip lat pulldown increases back thickness, targets the lower lats and mid-back rhomboids more effectively, and allows a greater range of motion compared to wide grip, often leading to better, safer hypertrophy. Dorian Yates favored a medium to narrow underhand or supinated grip for lat pulldowns. This is why he tore his biceps. To maximize range of motion, lat engagement and bicep safely. He avoided wide overhand grips. However, if you go for supinated grip, biceps will be involved greatly, much more. As we know, Dorian torn his left biceps 6 weeks before 1994 Mr. Olympia while performing reverse grip barbell rows with 440 240 pounds or 200 kilos. And then his triceps tendon on his right arm 3 weeks before winning highly controversial 1997 Mr. Olympia when performing lying triceps extensions, he heard like bang, like in his hand. So this was the tendon. So again, what worked for Dorian doesn't necessarily mean it worked for you. You have to experiment with different exercises to find out what works for you. Otherwise, everybody would be training like Dorian or Arnold or somebody else, okay? So, focusing here on the correct form and applying mind-muscle connection principle as it is many times mentioned by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even during the maintenance or health phase, and don't take me wrong, I still train with an effort. So, breaking sweat to speak. Well, the age plays a role as well. After 50, it's not what it used to be. Let's be honest, delts. After the chest is finished, and I can tell you, I can feel the chest okay. I am moving to hit my real delts. This is where I train real delts with back. My favorite and the most effective exercise is cable flies. Cables keep muscles under load for entire set and using crossed arm technique with pronated grip. Whilst keeping a slight bend in the elbows, I'm pulling cables outward and slightly backward. Don't forget to squeeze the rear deltoids at the end of the movement, and when bringing the arms forward, don't let the weight touch the stack to maintain tension. Just a note, you can experiment with the height of the cable pulleys to hit real delts from different angles. If you have difficulty feeling the real delts, try to focus on pulling with hands rather than pulling back with your elbows. So the last muscle group for today's session is biceps. This is the most important muscle group for some lifters together with triceps. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to have hands like bazooka? I started with the incline dumbbell biceps curl and do some feeder sets, as my biceps are already semi-warmed up from the exercising the back before. Using a pyramid style for feeder sets, where every set the weight increases whilst at the same time number of reps decreases. This is an old school approach. So double incline curl is an isolation exercise. Bench should be around 45 degrees angle to provide the proper stretch to the long and short head of the biceps. So I am focusing on the full stretch without locking my elbows at the bottom of the movement and curling the weight high enough to squeeze biceps at the top of the movement. I have seen this exercise in the movie Pumping Iron, performed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and there was no swinging of the dumbbells. I am also trying to avoid curling my wrists by keeping my wrists neutral. So I don't want to use much forearms to shift focus from biceps to forearms. Today I'm doing 3 straight sets where I don't manipulate the weight, but making sure that every sequential set is harder to perform. How to do it? Do first set, for example, 15 reps with a particular weight. Then second set, use the same weight and go for the same amount of the reps. As in our example, it's 15. And subsequently, the third set should be the hardest one if using the same weight and the same number of reps. You can even push the envelope a bit harder and go to the failure. And to spice it up, maybe even some cheat reps at the end to make those biceps grow. The last exercise for biceps is an arm curl on matrix machine, which is an isolation exercise. Great by some for the peak of the biceps. I'm doing today a modified version of the exercise as I seen performed it by C-Bum, Chris Bumstead. So the height of the seat in this case is irrelevant, as I'm not using seat at all. But as you see in the video, what is important is to have whole upper hand resting on the pad, not just elbows. This way, I was able to achieve epic stretch for the biceps without straining the muscle. Control tempo, not letting weight just to free fall back on the stack, but squeezing biceps at the top of the movement to hit those peaks on the biceps. This position allows biceps to stretch greatly by increasing the angle between the upper hand and the torso, as both heads of the biceps are attached to the scapula. Here, I'm avoiding lifting my upper arms off the pad and also keeping my wrist more or less straight, but not curled, to isolate the biceps and not shift focus on the forearm muscles. I'm actively trying to shrink my waist a bit by doing crunches and leg raises 4 times a week. However, don't neglect TVA or transverse abdominis, that is the deepest layer of the abdominal wall and looks like a natural corset. If you develop strong TVA, then you will be able to do vacuum even if you have a bubble gut. I have a short video on my channel showing the trick how to pull vacuum with a bubble gut. Just do this on an empty stomach, please. Results guaranteed. In the next video, I am going through my blood tests. So, what it means and how to adjust nutrition, training, and PEDs based on the blood test results. So, stay tuned.